spoke to one of our members, and he went MIA for about a year and a half. So this was a fellow that was out of benefits, because the way we work, as long as you're working, your benefits are getting paid in. But he went MIA and fell off, if you will. Reached out to the MAP program, which we're going to be talking about, and he was looking for help. We found him bottom of the barrel, as low as you can go, rock bottom, if you will. Through connections. Since I've been doing this with recovery houses and things, we were able to get him what's called a scholarship, where they'll take somebody in, on the arm, and give him some treatment. So he got 3 weeks of treatment. He got detox and 2 weeks of treatment there. He had nowhere to live. We were able to secure him a sober living house, which they're available pretty much all over. Some people know about them, some don't. Somewhere where he could live amongst a community of men that are all doing the same thing, at a reasonable price of like $200 a week, which is very reasonable for living in New Jersey. And we got him back to work, and he is, he's doing great. And he called me up, and he was on his lunch break, and he just said, hey, I'm just checking in, man. I said, hey, how's everything going? How are you? And he said, I'm doing good. He goes, I was running a bulldozer today. And he goes, I was running the bulldozer, I'm pushing this dirt pile up. And he goes, I stopped for a minute, took a sip of water. And he said, if it wasn't for that program, I'd be dead. And I said, well, maybe not. I said, but here you are. You're out there, you're doing it. And, he's building his life back together. I mean, he's mid-50s. So this isn't just like a young guy kind of thing. And he's putting his life back together, and to get a success story like that, pushes you and makes it all worth it, really, in the end. The rest of your day is pretty good. Anything could happen during the day, but the rest of your day is pretty good when you hear something like that. He said that he was kind of reconnecting with his daughter, who he's been estranged from for about 3 to 4 years. That's good stuff. It's all baby steps. But he's got a good place to live. They have, meetings every night. He has to produce clean urine to be there weekly, all the things that are going to keep him in line. The IOP that he's doing, which is intensive outpatient for his drinking issues. He's going to that nightly. And we were able to connect him in with, a community that we have now of people that are sober and dealing with addiction issues, or have dealt with addiction issues, or in recovery. So he has community within this crazy world of construction as well, which that's huge.
That is huge. Chris, I love so many things about that story that you're sharing. Like, first of all, it's like, this is just one story of probably hundreds, if not thousands, that the work that your group is doing, that you personally are doing. This is a phone call that you got. For the people listening, like, these types of things, we like to compartmentalize, and I can't even say it right. But we wanted to think that you can separate family issues, work issues, and keep things separated is just a myth. It's all interconnected. I grew up in a house where I had family, close family, in and out of similar type of scenarios. And even now that I've been 30 years in construction, we know people like that. They're next to us and around us every day. When I was growing up as a kid, these types of programs and groups didn't exist. And I can only imagine how different my life could have been for some of the people that I no longer have with me. They're not here anymore because there wasn't these types of things in this network of people, or even the ability to talk about it. So everyone, sit back, relax, plug in. This is going to be a great show with Chris. I already hyped this up, and I told a friend of mine, I said, this is going to be a show you're going to watch over and over again. So
not because of a good looking guy, that's for sure.
All right, so that was awesome, Chris. That'll be the opening hook, including that last joke. I'm gonna keep that in. That's freaking golden.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the one thing I'll say is it can't all be serious. You have to throw that joke in there to let people take a breath. And that's important.
Absolutely. Yes.
Because like one of the things I'll say when I do public talking, I'm like, I'll come out with some statistics, and I'll say something, and I'll say, well, that comes out to this. I'm like the rest of you guys in construction. I went to high school for 8 years too. And like the place starts breaking out. So here they are, but that laugh lets me know I have their attention. Yeah, I know they're listening. And that's what's important. And that could be a group of 5 people, and it could be a group of 200 people. And if I get through to one person, I done something.
Yeah, that's a win.
Yeah.
It's an absolute win. No, I
Yep.
appreciate that. We're kindred spirits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
And
that.
that's where, that's where I connect and that's where I'm effective. Sharing lived experience. And that's very, very real.
Welcome to the EBFC Show, the easier, better for construction podcast. I'm your host, Felipe Engineer Manriquez. This show is all about the business of construction.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Lean Construction Institute. LCI is working to lead the building industry in transforming its practices and culture. Its vision is to create a healthy and thriving industry that delivers outstanding project outcomes every time for everyone. Check the show notes for more information. Now, to the show. Welcome to the show, Chris Lalevee. Chris, we met on the one social media platform that I barely do anything on, but I'm so happy that I pay attention occasionally. And that platform is Twitter. But your content and engagement in many different social platforms really stands out because so many people in our industry just participate in silence and never say anything. And we know there is a power in showing up, being available to people, sharing a dialogue, and it can have consequences, third order, fourth order, fifth order, beyond our capabilities. And I'm just a huge, huge admirer of the work that you do, specifically with mental health and normalizing the conversations that people can have in the space. And like we were talking about before the show started, you can absolutely save a life. And sometimes even a tweet can be the difference between somebody getting the help that they need or not. With that, Chris, I would love to open it up and have you introduce yourself to the audience. You're also my first BA on the show. So breaking a record, it's about freaking time, 4 seasons
Look at
late.
that, huh?
Yeah, so I'm super glad. You're going to set the bar really high for all the other BAs listening to the show. Yeah, Chris beat you. He's the first and he's going to be the best. So go ahead and tell people a little bit about your background. And for a lot of people probably don't know what a BA does or is. And
Yeah,
throw any acronyms you throw out, Chris, I'll ask you to tell people what those mean in case you forget.
sure. No problem. Thanks, Felipe. It's great to be here. And I appreciate you reaching out because for me, yes, it is a very serious subject. And in construction, being a male dominated industry, it's something that's not really talked about enough. My thought is it should be. And there's a decent amount of people out there that feel the same way. Myself, I started with Local 825 as a dispatcher in the referral hall. I worked there for 8 years, then was moved to the position I'm in now, which is a business agent. So basically my day to day as a dispatcher was taking calls from members and contractors and sending them out to work, sometimes taking complaints, things of that nature, talking to our members, sending them out to the jobs, where to go, bringing them back in, onboarding them onto our list and getting them out. And now as a business agent, I take care of an area that's called Hudson County. So Hudson County is right across the river from New York City. So it's a very urban area, very tight area, not easy to get around, but it's my daily, it's what I do. I basically police the county, if you will, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to our members. If there's a member with a complaint or something, is going on that way, I'll go out and handle that. I work with our contractors with various jobs that are coming out throughout the county, talk to them, put it on their radar, as well as, working with them on manning. There's so many things. It's almost like I don't know what I'm going to do on a day to day. That's my day to day. And then of course I developed the MAP program. So then there's that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then for people that don't know, IUOE stands for what?
That's the International Union of Operating Engineers. We are heavy equipment, everything from infrastructure on the streets to buildings, roadways, bridges, tunnels. We hold up traffic. Don't get mad at us. We don't like sitting in traffic either, but we're just trying to make a living. But that's what we do, heavy equipment operators. So when you see the dump trucks going and cranes going and the blacktop equipment running, that's all of our guys out there doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we at the Bolt Company, we're signatory to operating engineers as well. So I'm very familiar. We've got plenty of highly talented people on our staff, and we're super proud. I think we just made a list recently. We're like a top something owner of cranes. We've got lots of cranes and a lot of big
Yep.
stuff. So totally,
I'm a crane operator by trade. So prior to this, crane operator, whether it was friction, um, over the road, RT, crawler, tower, barge work, you name it, I pretty much did it.
no, that's super cool. And then, so people, if you're like ever wondering, like, is Felipe pro union, anti union? I'm pro union. Like I've been to Black Lake, Michigan, and my parents were UAW. My dad was a union steward. I grew up writing grievance letters against management as a kid. I ended up going to school, and people know my history and background. But as a kid, I've always been able to straddle both sides, and I understand why. There is sides. Like a lot of people don't even understand the difference. I totally get it from both perspectives. So
Yeah. And much of like we're going to talk about, unions have been stigmatized over the years and, we're living in a different world now. I could get along with a non-union person the same way I can get along with a union person. I grew up in a union household, the union of operating engineers, household of operating engineers. So, of course I'm pro-union, but, I understand the argument back and forth. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a stigma there that, isn't quite understood to some degree.
yeah, a lot of people that don't know, like you can live your life and be a consumer of or different career, different industry. You'll never understand until you're in it, or you take the time to talk to somebody like Chris. So we'll make sure as you're listening to this episode in the show notes down below, I will have Chris's contact information and the places to get more details and information about him. And while you're navigating down that way, people, go ahead and tap that like button, follow and subscribe so you never miss great videos and interviews like this. Now, Chris, I want to jump right into it. So I want to ask you, you mentioned that you came up in a house of operating engineers. So it was almost inevitable that you were going to go this way. Did you ever have an opportunity as you were finishing high school not to go this route and do something else? And some uncle, sat you down, had a talking to with you and said, no, Chris, don't be stupid. You're going to be an operating engineer.
I come from a generation, I think, where it was put into our head that if you don't go to college, you're not going to be anything. And I think today we're starting to realize that that's very untrue. We're starting to see a shortage in tradespeople, as I'm sure you well know. I hold the same thing. I have two teenage sons, whatever they want to do with their life, as long as they're happy. Is this what I wanted to do? Sure. I mean, the camaraderie, the everything that I grew up with, all the people that I've known through my life that were, quote unquote uncles and that kind of stuff. They were all operating engineers. These guys had a great time, made an honest living, put roofs over the head, food on the table. There were some hard times, but that's when you saw it even better. That's when the community came together tighter. And that was always interesting to me. And that's what I want, that's what it was more than a career. It was, it still is, I believe it's family and it's about families because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for our families, whether it's the benefits, the paycheck, whatever it may be. We're going out there every day and we're doing it so we could provide for our families, whether that is food on the table or, health and medical benefits.
Yeah, I love that. And then, we talked about, Chris, you're very outspoken on social media about mental health and awareness. And through my own ignorance, I wasn't aware that you had kicked off the member assistance program. I thought that was just something as part of your job as a business agent. So forgive my ignorance because
No,
I just
that's all
don't
right.
know. And because we barely have time to research and get into this, I'd love for you to go into, what was the genesis of that program getting started? And you put your energy into it every day. You're making an impact like that story you talked about in the beginning. How does that program support construction workers and their families staying in the same vein of families?
Yeah, it was awareness, Felipe. It really was. It was just being aware and listening. The old timers in the construction industry used to say, if God wanted you to talk more, he'd give you two mouths and one ear. So, you should listen. And, truth be told, I've held that tight to my chest for a long time, but you listen to people and you get to know people. And like I said, this is a community. Through the years, you work with so many. You're on a job here with, I'm working with Philippe on this job in 2001. And, I see you at a couple of union meetings, and next thing we're working together and it's 2012. And, how are your kids doing? Oh my God, that one's in college already. And this happened and that happened. And it's very interesting. And through all of that and knowing people as I worked in the referral hall, because I've been around, I guess, for a while, and just knowing people and knowing their patterns and their attitudes, you could tell when something's wrong or there's something off, or a contractor would call in and say, hey, we got this guy you sent us on the job. He's late every day. Now, I worked with Philippe 5 years ago, and you were always there at 6 o'clock, and we started at 7, and we used to have coffee together and talk about last night's Yankee game and, this, that, and the other thing. So that leads me down the road of wondering what's wrong with Philippe. Like, that's not him. That there was my own journey, and just being an empathetic person, grabbing a phone number and driving home from work when I was done with the office, calling up a guy and saying, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Of course, the first answer was, yeah, I'm fine. Why? Because this is the phone call I got. Right. And I'll tell you the same story that, when we worked together, I don't remember you being late. And to turn it into a very true story, because it is, it turned out that this gentleman I talked to, he had a 17-year-old kid, boy, and he was running around and using, and he just wasn't sleeping at night. That's tough. So now you got to kind of start to put that all together, and you say, okay, here's a guy that's in a heavy excavator all day. He's not getting enough sleep. He's got worry on his mind. We're supposed to be a brotherhood, sisterhood. What can we do to help? What can we do to help? And I remember saying, is there anything I can do to help? And he was like, I don't know. Not that I'm going to fix anything, but sometimes, and in that case, just talking about it, he started showing up to work earlier again. And I had asked the guy from the company, listen, can I speak to him before you get rid of him? Can I speak to him first? See if there's, yeah, that's fine. He's a good guy. He's just always late. That's what had happened. Now, back in the 90s, I had a pretty rough go with anxiety and depression. There was about a year and a half, almost 2 years there, that I was dealing with anxiety attacks, panic attacks, real depressive state, suicide ideation, that kind of thing. And this was in the 90s. And, you're not going to speak about this kind of stuff in this industry. You're not going to speak about it whatsoever. So, where was my go-to? My go-to was drinking. If I wanted to kind of forget about the day or try to get the shakes out of me or whatever was going on, I found myself over drink. Thank God, not to the point where I started to lose everything. I was lucky enough to say, you know what, I need help. And I got help. I got the help I needed. I found a psychologist. I found a psychiatrist. I went through, therapy. I took some medication to level me off, which took a while. It took a while. And again, this is mid-90s. It wasn't fun. And I took that journey alone. One, because I wouldn't tell anybody about it, because now you're weak as a man. Two, because I'm a guy. I'm going to keep it to myself. I don't want to put anybody out. Thinking about that, I said, if I would have had somebody that I could have talked to or, help me through this, maybe I would have got help sooner. Thank God I didn't take my life. And why didn't I take my life? I didn't take my life for some reason. And possibly that reason is this. And that brings me to, why I'm so outspoken about it, because I kind of, as hokey as it may sound, I feel like I'm alive for a reason. What do I do with that? And here I am doing this.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't sound hokey at all. Chris, I super appreciate you sharing that story with our listeners, because I think that story is way more common than we think. And even I I grew up in Chicago and came up on the office side through the management side. And for a while I got to run some crews and be a project leader and a superintendent type of role. And I had some people in the unions that pulled me to the side, and luckily they just took pity on me because I was just a young kid, way too eager and just dumb and didn't understand like all these things you're talking about. These factors that Chris is talking about somebody not getting sleep, having worry because of family issues with kids, doing the intervention to talk to somebody before they get let go. A lot of those things we don't give each other in the brotherhood or sisterhood of construction industry that we are the grace to make that space, to allow that to happen. So if you're listening to the show, this is something that's probably happening on your job right now. The chances of these types of experiences not being on your job are statistically impossible. So I just want everyone to just take a second and think about the people what Chris has just said is like the easy thing is like you can just listen to somebody. And if you're not, you can ask somebody to give some grace, make some things available, and to just care a little more. And I'll tell you from experience, Chris, that I have yet to find the limit of my caring. It seems like anytime something happens, I can care just a little bit more and it pays dividends, either for me personally or for the person that it makes a difference to. So if you're out there and you're listening and you think like this doesn't apply to me and I don't care, then you're probably the one that Chris and I need to care more for. And we got you. We absolutely
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah. And you got to, you have to be willing to take that walk with somebody. And the other hard part sometimes is when somebody needs help and they just don't want it. So yeah, you hope, you check in on them and you hope maybe they finally say, you know what, I think I need some help.
Yeah. And I've been that person too, Chris. I've absolutely been the one that's like, I don't need help. I got this. I'm going to shoulder this. I'm going to burden this and shoulder it
Well,
myself alone. And
I think we all have, right?
right.
It just doesn't have to be our, think about your everyday, I got this. I can, I'll show you. I'll show you how to do it. 20 trips to the home remodeling store later. And yeah, you got it done, but maybe somebody could help you with it.
Oh my God. It's just outside of you, Chris, I had a painting contractor come to my house yesterday and I said, I'm going to show you something that I did because I didn't ask for help and you're going to see it in
Right.
10 seconds. I didn't even have to let the sunlight hit it. He's like, oh, this giant spot right here. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's me. I was like, please, could you
Right.
blend that in? And he was like, yeah, you could do that blindfolded.
But it's not much different, right?
Right.
It's not much different. But we do that with those things. I can paint this, I can put that roof on. I'll show you how to do it, right? We're guys. Yeah, I'll put brakes on my car. Whatever it might be, yeah, you name it, we can do it. And that's just, it should still do us as men, so whether it's you need help with that or you need help with, it could be a misuse. It could be something going on inside your head. Ask for some help.
Absolutely. And asking for help reminds me of looking back. I started this podcast 4 years ago. We're in season 4.
Wow.
Every single year, somebody has mentioned the topic of mental health, addiction, suicide. And when I look back to where we were 4 years ago when we started to where we are now, I can't see that it's actually better yet. And so I think a lot of these issues, I think people are suffering in silence, and there's more complexity around this for why it's not changing as a whole or getting better. So I think, Chris, from your perspective, you've done the research, these types of issues that are affecting people. What inspired you to create this peer support program for these issues specifically? And if you could share one or two more stories as to like what happens to people when they get caught in this net of support. I'd love for people to hear what that is.
Hearing people struggle, and when we're in a crisis, whether it's with ourselves, with a family member, are you really thinking clearly on a construction site? Right, another set of eyes is always a great thing. You have another set of eyes that can start, being that bridge to getting you or your family member, whoever it is, on path to help. and taking that burden off of them of calling people and what do I do? Well, if it's a husband or a wife, then the spouse isn't 100% there either. You have to realize that the whole family is going through a crisis. That person is, but it's affecting the whole family. Who could be that person that says, all right, stop. What do you need? What's going on? And now start throwing the suggestions at you. Recovery program, therapy, all the different things. Just having that clear voice means a lot to people, and it steers them in the right direction because most people don't know where to start. Being a construction guy, anybody that's in construction will tell you and understand. We trust ourselves. We don't trust others. Not many people understand our industry, right? It's a strange industry. It's a great industry. I love this industry, but it's a very strange, tight to the hip, close. Don't talk, which way do we go? But I'll tell you what, when it's, I've always seen it when the chips are down, whether that's on a job or that's personal, when the chips are down and somebody needs something, it's jump right in. Yeah. Everybody, what can I do? What can I do? We've all been on a construction site. If you're in the industry where somebody loses somebody close to them and right away, you're taking up a collection, let's give him, her some money. What can we do? We could give him some financial help. So everybody's pulling $50 out here. We put it in an envelope. These are from the guys on the job. That's all well and good, but we could do more. We could do more. And it doesn't have to be waiting on people hand and foot, but, checking in on. You have a widow that the husband passed, and that might have been an overdose. It might have been a suicide. Who's going to cut the lawn? That's what he always did. Can we get people on track to some sort of normalcy in their life, as well as get them to some help and talking about it as well. I talk to so many people, they don't know where to start to find a therapist. And we have a great system here that's been set up by our business manager for our members to go into our funds on the computer, look and see what you need. And I can tell you, we're construction guys. We don't know how to use it. We don't live in the days of when I was young and the wife was home and can do it. We're living in 2-income families today. Everybody's go, go, go. We have people with careers now. The wife has a career, the husband has a career. Then you mix the kids into it. They don't know where to go, so don't forget about it. A lot easier to be at the ready when somebody calls and says, hey, I think I need to talk to somebody. Let's just use an example of my wife and I are kind of at each other's throats, and we're thinking maybe go to a marriage counselor. Do you have anything? Absolutely. It's as simple as me tapping into the benefits, knowing where you live, doing within a 25-mile radius, sending you that email, and you had to do nothing. Here it all is in your hands right now. And you didn't have to go through all that. Just streamlining ways to get people to where they need to be. So
that's the whole point of the show. Easier, better, faster. It's absolutely what you're doing, Chris. I think what I love in that is that, people can come with almost anything. And your experiences when you're working dispatch is 100% paying dividends right now in this member assistance program, because when the phone rings, you never know what's going to be on the other end or what type of situation. I recently, myself did some time in the hospital that turned out to just be a kidney stone, but there was, you get all the doctors and nurses fluttering over you. There's all these there's more unknown what's going to happen versus what is going to happen. And then afterwards, when I opened up to people about, where was I on Wednesday? It's then people just opened up and said, oh, this is what I did. These are things that you can do. This is some good advice. Ask your doctor about this. And it's just the support that people give after the fact, when it just took me opening up and just saying, what it was. Right. And what happened, what I went through. And I think, a lot of people don't know, some of the things that could even be causing that stress, or something as trivial as just having a minor injury at work. And you could get put on some painkiller medication, like oxycodone or something to that nature. I just got a statistic at the pharmacy that said that, 40 people die every day from ODing on oxy just in the United States alone. I don't think
108,000 a year.
108,000 a year.
108,000 a year die from overdose of opioids.
Yep. And I think people don't realize that in our industry in construction, injuries unfortunately happen due to a myriad of issues. And you could take a totally normal person, they they go to the doctor, they're trying to do the right thing, listen to what the doctor says. Doctor's just trying to stabilize them and reduce their pain. And the next thing you know, they're addicted to painkiller medication, and
Yeah.
like their whole life changes in days.
And honestly, if you look at the two biggest leading causes of addiction to opioids, it's surgery and work-related injury. So those are the two biggest. And if you look at what we do in the construction industry, we are the target.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
that's just real. That's factual stuff. That's factual stuff.
Yeah, we'll put some links. We've got some resources where you can see some of these statistics and way more stats. I'll put a link to stats from my buddies at Skill Signal that did have
Oh
a
yeah.
really nice safety site. I know, Chris, you've
Yep.
been involved with Sebastian and some of the
Yep.
work that they've been doing in the
Yeah, they're doing.
Northeast.
Yeah, they're doing some great stuff. We kind of met the same way. Social media. I happen to be out there just doing my thing, and we met the same way. But there's so many here that are doing such great stuff. You say Skill Signal with what they're doing, and Save Project. God, we could go down the list. One of my biggest heroes there is Cal Byer. I don't know if you ever talked with him, but he's just an amazing person. Dr. Sally Spencer and Sarah Greer. All these people that are coming together for the industry. Really, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. You mentioned those names, and I feel like I know them because of what they say. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Cal, and he's very outspoken in suicide
A little
prevention,
bit, right?
awareness, and intervention. Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like I don't talk enough, Chris, compared to Cal.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
could do
But
more.
yeah, you couldn't ask for a better guy, and I'm pretty excited. I'll be doing a webcast with him at the end of August, so I'm excited for that as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's an interesting stat about. I wasn't aware that surgery and accidents are leading to that opioid issue with folks. So I think with that in mind, someone's probably listening that might they might be in that category. What are some of the things that you could offer that people might not know that are available to them if they're in that situation where they had a surgery or they had an accident and they're taking medication, and now they're way past the time where they should have healed up and they're still on that medication.
For first and foremost, when you're on these medications, and you have to, we have to take fentanyl into consideration in all these medications. And let's just look down the whole of Narcan, which is just an important thing, I think, to have on your job sites, to have in your homes. uh, and there's people out there doing great work with Narcan and getting it out there. It's important. Um, and it's one of the things that could stop death from an opioid crisis. That's in my mind, first and foremost. Other than that, you have companies out there, and you have people advocating. I don't want to seem like I'm plugging everybody, but they're just great people that I've met through my years here. Save Project out of Washington, D.C. It's a great organization, talks about opioids. Goldfinch Health, they're some great people. Brandon John, they're doing some non-addictive treatment for after surgeries. And these are things you have to look at, especially not only for people that may become addicted, but for people that are in recovery that don't want to go on an addictive substance after a surgery that might put them back where they were however many years ago. So, there's people out there that are doing it, and, they're all good people. The resources are out there, the people are out there. And what you need is the acceptance from people, like whether it's a construction company, a union, an association. The AGC is doing some great stuff. And here in New Jersey, we have the UTCA. They just started jumping on with some mental health stuff and that kind of stuff, and been talking with them as well. And it's a reality. It's a reality. We all go through things like CPR training, and we all have AEDs on the job. And for as many times as you've been through CPR training, think about how many times you've used CPR. Truth be told, this is so commonplace with opioids and fentanyl and overdose and all the things we're seeing. This needs to come into our industry. It needs to be accepted. It needs to be looked at as a safety issue and blended into our safety culture. The things you can do is educate yourself, knowing what's out there, knowing what happens, knowing the signs. It's super important. Myself, I carry 2 Narcan kits in my car. I have a Narcan kit at home. I have teenagers. Teenagers experiment. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know who did what to what or where they got whatever. And you can't be on it 24 hours a day. I hope I never have to use that stuff the same way we hope we never have to use the AED. But isn't it smart just to have it? I hope my smoke detectors never go off in my house, but I have them. So, you start looking at it and normalizing it. That's where we have to be. We have to be normalizing it and educating each other about it. And if that means someone like me speaking out and a couple people listen, hey, at least I got your attention.
Yeah, I'm listening with both ears, Chris, and I got
Yeah.
these super nice headphones so I can hear you in high definition audio. Super appreciate the stories that you're sharing and taking that responsibility to normalize this and make this a part of what we have. I totally agree with you. I think, for a long time, and I was just Rolodexing in my head, how many times have I gone through CPR training? I've never heard of Narcan or a Narcan kit until just now. This is the first time I'm hearing about it. So I'm super glad I learned something here. Final thoughts for people listening to this show, and everyone wants an actionable, what can I do right now? What are some easy things that people can do to make a difference as they go back to work or as they think about what they got going on in their project or at home?
Well, we could normalize this conversation. We could blend it into our safety culture. We all have toolbox talks. If you go, to like, Cal's site, he has toolbox talks that you can have around mental health and addiction and suicide. Normalizing these conversations is super important. I was on a webinar yesterday, 988 crisis line just turned 1 this past month. And based on the figures and the rise in calls was amazing. But interestingly enough, I think the numbers were, and I didn't get the email yet. I want to look over the email. I believe they said that it's basically 4% of the population in America knows what 988 is. So getting the message out, simple as something like this flyer around your job site, where people can get the information, your local resources, make these available to people, have the conversations. And if you don't know how to have the conversations, get with people that do, raise awareness and don't be scared of it. Don't run away from it. We had Mental Health Awareness Month in March, and, we'll have suicide prevention in September. One of the things that we do in suicide prevention is I do these hard hat stickers, which basically has 988 on it. It just says there's no shame in asking for help. And, construction workers, we love stickers for our hard hats. So I could say, don't make it the police radar. Don't treat it like a police stop. And by that, I mean, you're cruising down the highway doing 80 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone. You see the police car. We slow down to 65. We put our seatbelt on. We put both hands on the wheel. We get past the police car. We whip the seatbelt up. We go back to 80 miles an hour and turn the tunes up. I get it. But, we did the right thing for a short amount of time. And instead of it just being, a month or a day or whatever it is, I mean, the other day was National Ice Cream Day. I didn't even know about that, but I think we have to do something in this union contract for that. But there's always a national day of this and a national week of that. Why are we waiting for that to bring up the awareness? It's July. What's wrong with bringing the awareness in July? What's wrong with bringing the awareness around the holidays? And that really all comes with normalizing it. And that's what you see on, my things like Twitter. It's about normalizing. I don't know that I throw out the best content, but I just throw it out there. And if it speaks to one person, it's good. Let people know where they can get help. Listen to people, look at people, and before you say, this person is no good, what is that person going through? What's making that person no good? You don't know it has to know what to do, as long as you know who to call. I tell guys in the field all the time, I don't expect you to fix anybody. You're not going to sit there, well, I can't do that. Yeah, but you can give them my phone number and I can take it from there. So this is a chain reaction thing. Philippe saw Chris, he's not good. So he wasn't sure what to do. So what he did was call, this person, and that person put something into action. And that's good. We're taking action. We're taking accountability. We're looking out for each other. And that's what it is. It's humane. And at the end of it all, it's making our construction sites safer. It's a way of life. This is what we do. And the statistics we could sit here and talk about are staggering and scary when it comes to the construction industry. So instead of knowing about it and, saying, okay, well, mental health awareness month, we're all going to put green ribbons on our job sites and we're going to say, cool, let's keep that green ribbon going 12 months a year. Let's see somebody that's coming out of recovery and not refer to them as a junkie or a drunk. Let's see them as a person that is trying to get their life back together, that really doesn't need that. I mean, is he or she going to live with that for the rest of their lives? Is that what they're going to be labeled as? And who are you or me or anybody to point fingers? We're nobody. Wrapping it up, when I talk to people, I say somebody in recovery from alcohol will never show up hungover. Someone in recovery for drugs will never show up strung out. And someone working on their mental health is always in a regimen and in a good frame of mind. And together, that's a safe job. So when we talk about safety in the construction industry, let's bring it together and do it and stop shying away from it.
Very special thanks to my guest. I'm Felipe Engineer Manriquez. The EBFC Show is created by Felipe and produced by a passion to build easier and better. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, everybody. Let's go build.